The Icons of Real Estate podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Meet Tammy Woodbury, a veteran real estate professional in upstate South Carolina. With over 20 years of experience in co-founding the Clever People LLC with her husband, Tammy specializes in guiding clients through property transaction with expertise. As an avid investor and lake lover, she offers unique insights into lakefront living and short-term rentals. Join us as we delve into real estate, lifestyle, and community with Tammy Woodbury, a trusted leader in the region. Welcome to the show, Tammy.
Thanks so much.
So in Icons, we love stories. So we want to hear your real estate journey and spare no detail.
Yeah. So I got into real estate for a different reason. In fact, someone did say, "Hey, Tammy, I think you'd be good at real estate." And it's funny when I think back, even when I heard that at the time, I was like, there's nothing about me that would make you think I would be good at real estate. I was 20 years old. I was in college. And I don't know what they really meant by that, but they just think we thought you'd have fun with it. So I said, okay. So I actually went to real estate school to be an elective credit while I was in college, not even to be in real estate. And it so happened there was a brokerage at the time. I think her office manager, was Brazilian, if I recall correctly. And she was going to go back to Brazil for a month. And so she says, "Tammy, for the summer, can you just come and work in our office?" She knew I'd been to real estate school, but it had nothing to do with that. But she said, "Can you just come and take the summer job?" And I thought, great. So while I'm there, it was funny because it's like 21 years ago. We still have dial-up internet. When people would want to make appointments, we'd have like a paper notebook and people would call the office that way. And so what's interesting at that time is so many people did real estate part-time. So these agents would list homes and then never come in the office. So I'm in this office with like 60 agents, but nobody's there. And I don't know anything about the industry. And at that time, consumers would just walk in the door and ask questions. So I would feel this pressure to answer their questions because I couldn't reach their agents. One day I just started studying more and I feel like there's some basic things I should be able to answer. So as that's going on, it's almost towards the end of the summer and this lady pokes her head around the door and she's like, "So I've been listening to you all summer and you're really good at talking to people. Maybe you should keep doing this." And it was really just one of those things where it worked out. I don't know that I even knew who I was as an adult at that time or what real estate was, but I quickly learned that there's lots of options to help people and help them discover who they were and what they wanted. And that part of the journey was a lot of fun for me. So at that time, though, I was an independent agent and I had fun with it, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was terrified of being a hazard to myself or to someone else. And so about a year and a half in, I'm really struggling because there weren't really books and there still aren't now, but without the internet being what it is today, unless someone just heard you like dying in the back, like no one was going to offer you support or tell you how to do things. And so I'm bumping around and one day this agent calls me. She was the leader of a top producing team in our area at that time and she wanted to recruit me. And that literally saved my life and my career because I learned so much from her and that team. But that's what really began, I would say, the momentum in my career when I learned what was important. I knew that helping people solve problems was important. I knew that making people feel good about the process was important, but I didn't understand enough of the details to really offer something. So as I was around her, she'd already been in business 20 years at that time. There were 10 other agents on the team. I started hearing from them and learning from them. And that really just set a fire in me to want to really make this even better, one for myself and for the consumer. But I didn't like that there was nothing that was a system at that time. It was like everyone who wanted to buy and sell every time. It was just this disjointed experience. It didn't feel good for me. I like structure. It didn't feel good for them. And I started noticing people would ask the same questions. So I thought, why don't we create a system to where people don't have to ask questions? Like we offensively tell them things before they get there, because I bet they'll be more confident.
Kind of like a script.
Yeah, kind of like a script, but more like a process. Like when we meet on day one, I'm like, okay, we're under contract. Now, I don't want you to be nervous that you're going to forget any steps because I'm going to tell you everything along the way. But there are going to be 5 hurdles. Here are our 5 hurdles. And this is going to happen during this period, this period, this period. But don't worry about anything. I'm going to tell you. So it's very, very early transaction management, right? Like way old school, like prehistoric type. So we started that process. And then just kind of through my own journey, I realized there were things that I wanted to do different. I loved my mentor. I loved that team. But that's what really led me to start my own team. My husband was actually new in real estate. We were not, actually, he didn't start as like my partner or anything. He tells a funny story. I'd been in business like 4 years. And actually, side note, funny, I remember him approaching me and I was like, cause you thought I was beautiful, right? He's like, no, I was not interested in you. But he said he was on call one Saturday and he gets his call. And so our average home sale price in our area is like 350,000. Back then it was probably 200,000. I don't know. And so he gets a call for this house that's like 650,000. So a really big price point. He said he remembers sitting downstairs and he knew I was the only agent there and I was upstairs. And he thought to himself, I can either try to show this home and fail because he was brand new and he's like, and I didn't know what to do, or she's a hardworking agent. I can ask her how we can partner and then maybe I'll get paid half of it. So we did. So that's how I met him. Obviously, eventually we got married. So we formed our team. And really the birthplace of our team was me wanting to do something different. Anyone who's been in real estate any period of time, the thing you hate to hear is the veteran agent who's like, I've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years. And they tell you like their track record as if that means something and they're kind of rude about it. But then also half the time, the stuff they do doesn't make sense. It's like nobody cares. That doesn't help the consumer anymore. So at that time, we wanted to form a team. But it was so important to me that we would have two primary pillars. One, that we would always be innovative. We would not become old and just do things that we had always done. But two, we would always look to do things that were clever and that were consumer based. Like if the consumer's mindset changed, if what was good for them changed, then we would change too. It didn't matter if we loved our process or not, we'd be willing to change it. So it's funny because when we were growing our team and it was starting to take off, we met with some mentors that were team leaders as well. And they were like iconic at that time. And we were talking about our team and they were like, so you're going to change it back to your name, right? And I said, what do you mean? Because we're the Clever People. And I was like, no, we're not going to. And they're like, well, that'll be the biggest mistake of your career. And of course, I'm panicked. I can't breathe because these icons told me it's the biggest mistake of my career. So we go home and I'm like distraught by this. And my husband's like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And I was like, well, here's the reason I don't think I want to do this. We're playing a long game. And I don't want someone who will come on my team and then outgrow me and my name. I want people to have their own identity. What we're creating is a brand standard for an experience. And if you like Scott better as his personality, but you want the Clever People experience, hire Scott. If you like Tammy's personality, hire Tammy, but you can choose each person. So that's what kind of led to the creation of our team and how we've developed. And it's so cool because again, I'm on year 21. And like last week, I'm around town and this lady starts talking to me. She goes, oh my gosh. Okay, wait, you're on the Clever People team, right? And I love it that she just thinks I'm on the team. She doesn't know it's my team, which is like, to me, that's like full circle that we have built this brand and we have this team, but everybody gets known for their personality, but we have a system, we have an experience, and our clients love that, and we're known for that. So yeah, that's kind of start to finish. I got here very accidentally, but I'm so thankful that I'm here.
You're here for stay. You're here to stay, from what I'm hearing. So tell me, your success in real estate is often like attributed, can I say this, like your consistency and your strategic goal setting. How do you maintain consistency in real estate business? Like, and what role does time blocking play in your daily routine?
Yeah, so there's this great book. I've probably read it 7 times. Everybody should read it. I read it every year in December and in the top of January. It's the 5 disciplines of execution. Did I get that right? I think so. If you write that down or someone Googles it. Anyway, Google will get it correct if I got it a little bit wrong. Okay. But it's amazing because most people don't understand this. So you have something called a WIG, a lag, and a lead. So your WIG is your wildly important goal. So most people will do a WIG. They'll say, this year, I want to make $100,000, and they might go so far as to figure out how many transactions that is. They might say that's, 30 million in production. Okay. But for most agents, and actually a lot of agents don't even do that. A lot of agents just say, I hope I can do this. And so there's a couple things that we've done over the years. I track everything. I know how many calls I need to make, what my percentage of conversion is. If I make X number of calls, this is going to convert to a sale. I know how long it's going to take me to close that sale. I know how many of those sales I need by my average sale price to hit my monthly, quarterly, and annual goals. So I can literally look at a new agent on our team and say, how much money do you want to make? Which sounds bizarre. And I say, okay, based on the information I have now, which is the average agent, we're going to back into it. You need to make this many calls per day. We need to see this many converted, and we back into the year. And then as they get stronger with their conversion and whatnot, then we know, okay, well, now you're getting stronger. Now you only need to make 17 calls instead of 22 calls. Now you're going to convert at 4 instead of at 12, because that's where you were before. So that's an example of some goals we set. But what the WIG goal is and what most people do is they set a production goal. Your lag goals are smaller wins along the way. So an example of a big goal might be, every month I need to close 5 homes. Okay. Or maybe this year I need to close 35 homes, but maybe I know I need to close 5 homes a month. Okay. Because I'm going to take some months off. So then another lag goal might be that I need to then therefore get 2 properties under contract a week. And so then the question becomes, how do we do that? So then those are your lead measure goals. So your lead measure goals will be, okay, based on my numbers, I know that I need to make calls every morning between 9 and 11. I need to call this specific group of people because that's where I have the highest rate of return. I need to make this many calls during that time, and I need to convert this many, and I need to show this many homes. I need to go on this many listing appointments. So there's a specific structure and number, and I'm aiming to hit this every single day. But the thing you mentioned that's key is time blocking. This is a career where if you're not careful, you believe that you're reacting. And for probably a decade and a half of my career, I reacted. It's like I would have a plan for the morning, and then somebody would want to see a home. And I'm so excited, I would run and show that home. Meanwhile, I didn't make my phone calls. And so most people's real estate businesses do this, or they make some money and they're super excited about it, but then they have that dip and they're terrified. But that's because they got stuck in the business or were unmotivated to make their calls. And then they got nervous. So the next month they made their calls or went on their networking appointments or did whatever they needed to do. And then they got really busy. And so this is what their income looks like. So if you want your income,
they don't define like priorities, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's known as a whirlwind. So whirlwind it's very interesting that you said defining priorities, because whirlwinds are deceiving. A whirlwind is something that's positive, but it distracts you from the ultimate goal you had. So the reality is a buyer wants to see a home at 10 a.m. That's a positive thing. But if I blocked off 9 to 11 to make my calls, that's a whirlwind, because I know that if I don't make my calls during this time, I absolutely will not build my pipeline, and I absolutely won't hit my other goals the following weeks. So what does it look like to protect this time? So for me, I remember always thinking, I can't possibly do this. Like if I tell somebody it'll be a different time, they're just going to drop kick me and get somebody else. But everything is about how you communicate with people. Will you have some times that you can't protect it because that's a closing had to be moved to that time, a builder walked through, a buyer worked 3rd shift and had to see something at 9? Sure. But what I can tell you this is personally closing 100 homes a year, maybe 10 times a year, do I have to compromise my schedule? So that just speaks to the ability of being able to say, when someone says, can I see a home? Absolutely. Could you do 1 o'clock? You would be surprised, even if that's not the time they would not have picked on their own. Maybe they would have said 5, maybe they would have said 9. But when you say, can you do this? They don't feel bad. They're not upset with you. If they can't, they'll say, well, I can't do that, but what about this? Well, now you're working and you're having some sort of agreement on this. But when you start with that first time, a lot of times they'll say, you know what, I think I can make that work. And so I know they're maybe adjusting something on their end, but that works for me and they're willing to do it. So those have been the biggest things, just protecting my schedule. Someone said before that the top 1% of earners in the world don't have any white space in their calendar. So the first thing I do every morning at 7 a.m., I plan my whole day. That's right. And when that hour hits, there's 2 diehard principles I have. When the notification, I have balloons. When the notification goes off and says, do this thing, I stop what I'm doing. Because in the past, what I would do is I would say, but I'm in the middle of this now. I'm going to finish this. Well, that's going to be problematic later, because at some point I proactively looked at my day and I said, this was the window of time to do this thing. So I accomplish it during that time. I stop what I'm doing. I do the next thing. Now, let's say I'm at a showing appointment that's going well, or the listing appointment goes on too long and I can't do the next thing. No problem. But I don't just let things be on autopilot. I look at my calendar, and if I can bump it down, I bump it down. If I can't do it that day, I move it to the next day.
You have colors? Like you define like when you start, so colors from like priorities. So this is the things that I really need to do. And if I'm going to like postpone something, okay, this is the things that I might postpone for later. But okay.
Yes, that's a great question. So in fact, like closings are in red because I know I'm never going to touch them. We're showing up for money, right? If it's a physical appointment, like a listing appointment or a showing, it's like this pinky peach color. So when my brain sees that, I know that's probably something also I can't move. But then I have other colors of priority. And this is the biggest thing I ever learned. Mel Robbins talks about this every day. And this is so powerful. If I could get every agent on the planet to do this, I swear they will make more money and have more joy just doing this one thing. look at your calendar and be fair with what your schedule is. If you're showing 16 homes between 12 and 5, and the client said they're hoping to write an offer, you're not going to be done at 5. You're going to do research, you're going to write an offer. That day you might work till 7. But you look at your whole day and you plan a stop time and write it in your calendar. Because if not, there's a law called Parkinson's Law. And what Parkinson's Law says is this: if you don't set an end time, then your work will expand to fill the time. If you think about, if you have a test and you know that it's the next day, or a project is due the next day, like when people are in college, if they know it's due the next day, they may have procrastinated, but they're going to get all that studying or all that research done right beforehand because there's an end time. And that's what Parkinson's Law says. That's why even fundraising committees, they'll usually only give people 3 to 5 days to raise the money, because they know if they give them a month or 6 months, they won't make their calls, they won't do what they need to do. So you set a stop time for your day, you put things in order, and you will find, it's so bizarre because it's just a calendar, but you will find that as you're approaching that end time, you're going to start to challenge yourself. You're like, okay, these things that were in yellow were not as important, but some of the pink things that were at the top, they did not get done. So how am I going to get those in? So honor that time, but I need to get this done because the clock stops here. This is how you have healthy marriages, healthy families, healthy relationships. You can still be refueled from your business. And will there ever be a time that there's a great opportunity and that work might bleed beyond that? Possibly. But even then, when I have to do that, I look at my clock and I'm like, okay, I've got to research, I need to write this offer, and I need to communicate. I'm going to adjust it by 45 minutes. Now, what I could do is just be like, oh, I missed it today, but I stop. I'm like, how much time is this really going to take? Because I need another stop, because if not, it's going to expand. All of a sudden I'm eating dinner and ignoring people while I'm still trying to do this work, and it's 10 o'clock at night. So putting a stop time there is super powerful.
You were so collaboration is something that is in your experience. It's how you met your husband, and collaboration seems to be like a recurring theme in real estate, especially if you think in the long term. So how do you like prioritize collaboration in your business, like operation?
Yeah. So you're going to laugh, but my whole team makes fun of me for this. The answer to everything, and I know I just said this, but it's time blocking. Any collaboration or things, they're priority. You know, we make time for priorities and they go in my calendar and they don't move. So there's specific types of collaboration that I have: masterminding groups, talking to other agents around the country, with my leadership team, making sure that we're effective as managers, that we're seeking out problems and solutions all the time, with our individual agents, with our sales team. So those pockets go into our calendar, and I make sure to be prepared for those meetings, delegate as possible, figure out how to scale. We've created this thing called the portal. They're actually for free. It's like a website that you can create through Google Drive. And there we have basically everything we ever talk about or do. It's a whole training portal. Everything lives there. So whether you're the first day on our team, or 6 months on our team, or 6 years on our team, and you can't remember something, is there. Every time we do something, it's called Tango. It's an application, but we go and we click all, when you want to know how to do something, you go to a website and it's like, click here, click here, click here. Yeah. It's all the steps with pictures. That's what Tango does. So we're trying to scale and replicate. So we're creating a system that anybody else can do because this moves quickly. And then we're always meeting with our management teams, with other people, learning what's going on, what's changing in the marketplace. What are new ways that we do things? How do we scale this? How do we share it with our whole team? Do we divide and conquer? Do we adjust and change? We do surveys all the time. So just really trying to understand and be better.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Can you share a memorable success story from your career, besides the one that you met your husband, that highlights the importance of consistency and collaboration both together?
Yeah. So it's funny because it's going to seem more specific than it is, but you know, video is very powerful right now. And so it's funny, you also mentioned consistency. One thing about me, I will always try to innovate, but also if someone's gone before me and says this works, I will try it with consistency for an extended period of time. I will set like a timer almost, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months, whatever should be appropriate. And I will not deviate, because I know that in any science experiment, you have some variables, but then there are things that have to be permanent every time. So it's when video first started, and to be honest, it was Facebook Live. Obviously, video has come a long way since Facebook Live. You know, people are using Descript and all these awesome things, and we've got cool reels and stuff like that. But I started on Facebook Live, and I'm a perfectionist by nature anyway. And I was afraid, or not afraid, of being on video. Like some people really get nervous about that. But I knew that because I was a perfectionist, if I recorded it, I would never execute, because I would listen to it and then I like it and record and listen to it and I like it. And I would end up spending so much time on it that it would take away from the rest of my, responsibility. So I would never do it. So one day I was looking at Facebook Live and I was like, if I hit live, it's go time. Yeah, I got to do this thing. So I started just pressing live and just going. And it was funny because this is like early video days, like video works. And nobody commented on it. Okay. Like literally my mom was the only one. She'd be like, you're so beautiful. I love you. My mom would comment on every video. No one else even liked them. No one said anything. And it was about the 7-month mark. I've been doing these videos again. No one's saying anything. And I started getting,
yeah.
yes,
Even
just
though
every day.
you were having like, we're not having like results, you just consistency. This will work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And one day it was so bizarre. I remember I started tracking it. It started with 1 call a week, 2 calls a week, 3 calls a week. People would call me. And this is beyond powerful. Yes, they would be a buyer or seller. That on their own, that was great. Great. You know, people calling you to buy and sell real estate. Yes, that's wonderful. But here was the best part. So your first, unless you just know everybody, okay, just about everybody who gets into real estate, you're trying to work with anybody with a pulse, right? They may not be your preferred client, but if they want to buy or sell real estate, you'll work with anyone. You'll work with difficult people that maybe you don't even mesh with, but you're doing it for the job. And so the real pinnacle is when you can work with people that not only know, like, and trust you, but that also like, and trust. So all these people on social media, they're watching my stuff. I am my authentic self. If I say something and I mess up, I'm like, never mind, don't worry about it. I just keep going. So I'm doing these videos, people start calling me. And when I go to their houses or I go meet with them the first time and I'm about to start having conversations about whatever it is we're talking about. And they're the hard conversations. Like, let's say you walk in someone's house to sell it and it's cluttered and it needs to be painted and they need to do a lot of stuff and their pet stuff is everywhere and they've got dark towels and it smells funny. And you're thinking all these things like, am I going to get to know this person that I can have these awkward conversations because it's going to hurt things. All of a sudden, these people start going, okay, we're so excited to list with you. And we already know everything. We've been watching your videos for months. We know that we're going to have to make sure the dog's out of the house. We're going to get the carpet replaced, but we wanted to know the color. We already know that we need to put stuff in storage. And they were literally reciting my videos to me.
Amazing.
And then they would finish and say, is there anything else? And I'm like, no. And we would go into the process. And because they felt like they knew me and I'd been giving them counsel when I didn't even know them, all of a sudden, like, they trust everything I say. They're not arguing about pricing. They're not frustrated by anything I tell them they need to do. If I'm like, pack up your kids and move out of the house for the weekend, they're like, yes, amen, we trust you. It was amazing. Buyers the same way. All of a sudden you're negotiating with the dad you never met before. Yeah. I had this girl, her dad calls me. He's a doctor and a lawyer. Like, I don't know how you're a doctor and a lawyer. That's kind of bizarre to me. Super smart. And she's a professor who just finished college and she has moved here. And he calls me and this guy comes in hot. I don't know him from Adam. He's like, Tammy, my name is so-and-so is my daughter. And she's coming to your area to buy a house. And he tells me all of his credentials. He's been a physician for blah, blah, blah. He's an attorney. He's bought and sold 15 homes. I'm listening to this. I'm like, great. So dad's in this transaction now, and this is going to be a doozy. And he finishes all of that. And he says, my daughter found you on social media and shared your profile. I've watched 32 of your videos now, which I was like, do I have that many buyer videos? I didn't think I did at that time. And he's like, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I was originally going to be more a part of this, but please just let me know what home she selects. I trust whatever you tell her to do. Never met this guy before. And so obviously it's funny because none of these people comment on these videos. In fact, the most bizarre thing is when people tell me they watch my videos, are like, I didn't even know we were connected. I did not know them beforehand. So when you talk about consistency, anything, video, let that be it. I don't know. But done is better than perfect. Those were not perfect videos. I mean, the content was mediocre probably, but just consistent over time and just seeing my business be built that way. And it is so much fun when you do business with people that you like and that trust you coming out the gate. And we don't have to have weird conversations because they learned these things objectively and it didn't feel personal to them because they were learning this off record months and months before.
It's amazing. So we're getting to our final questions. Where do you go from here and what are your goals?
Okay. So I don't know when this podcast will be heard, but today is March 21st, 2024. So there's this whole thing with the NAR settlement and how that might impact our industry. And so as we've been talking and training on this for our own team, everyone wants to be mad at these sellers and mad at NAR and all this stuff. And the reality is, here's the catch-22. The real fault or the real problem here is not if agents make too much money or not enough money. The issue is nobody really knows what we do. And that's for a couple of reasons. Obviously, we've got some trade secrets and negotiation tactics and all these things we do behind the scenes. And we don't want to tell a buyer and seller all the bad things that can happen in a transaction because then people would probably never buy and sell real estate if they knew all the fires we were putting out behind the scenes. But it's on us to demonstrate what it is that we do, because here's what I firmly believe. If someone is very sick today and maybe they need a new heart, okay, and I don't care how much money they have in the bank, if all of a sudden they have the ability to have the number one heart surgeon in the world help them, heal them, and give them a new heart, whatever it costs is irrelevant. They're
Mhm.
going to pay for that heart surgeon because they see that there's great value here and it's going to have a huge impact on their life. So I don't know what will happen with how buyers or sellers will be paid, if buyers have to pay us exclusively. I don't know if there'll be limitations, whatever's in the buyer agency agreement, the seller can't pay you more. Who knows how it will all shake out. But the two things I know are if we understand how to be excellent agents and build great value, then people won't have a problem paying. And so
Mhm.
that leads me to the real thing that I want to do next. And this is what we started when we built our team portal. And it was just for us at first. But my real mission is to try and figure out a new platform to help agents become excellent agents. The saddest, hardest thing that I learn all the time, there are agents that have been doing this 10, 15 years. They still don't know how to price homes. They don't know what an absorption rate is.
Mhm.
They don't know how to use strong negotiation strategies. There's so many things that are, in my opinion, baseline to represent a client. But the reality
Mhm.
is, we all know this. What you learn in real estate school is not how you sell real estate.
Yeah.
It's not the pipeline prospecting side. It's not the negotiation side. It's not the marketing side. It's not the data side. Those are all the things we use to sell, and nobody teaches you what to do with them. If you get lucky or figure it out along the way, or if you stay in business long enough to find the way, lucky. But most of us are 10, 15 years in before we get lucky and figure it out just because of repetition. And most people don't make it that long, or they're doing it on the side. So to be candid, a lot of agents aren't excellent agents because there's not a system for teaching these things. And these things aren't trade secrets, but we treated them like they're trade secrets. These are things that we
Mhm.
should be teaching people from an appropriate platform. So my next phase in life where I've known we were going to need to do something like this, but is to figure out what it looks like to help all agents learn these things in the very beginning. Because right now, unless you bump into a team or a mentor, and even a mentor doesn't have enough time for
Mhm.
really the time of immersive learning. But if we can
Definitely.
figure out what that looks like, I think that we change our industry forever.
Two more questions. What rule did you wish you knew when you started out?
What rule? No is okay and nobody dies. Meaning, if you ask for something and you mess it up, or you ask for an opportunity and you mess it up, or you ask someone to be your client, or ask for anything, we're all timid because we're like, we don't know enough, or they might say no, or they might
Afraid,
shoot us down.
yeah, afraid to make a mistake. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I don't think I was like, what do I think was the worst thing that would happen? I would be embarrassed, but nobody dies from embarrassment. So I wish I had been braver because I wasn't afraid of failing.
Definitely got you. So we got to one last fun question for you. So Icons of Real Estate Podcast is number one real estate podcast network and is passionate about making podcasting accessible. If you had your own podcast, what would you call it?
Start better.
Start better?
Uh, yeah.
Why though?
Because we talked about consistency, we talked about time blocking. Nobody needs to be perfect at everything. Everyone thinks that they have to be an expert everywhere, but small changes, well, and if you just start better with the small changes, everything's better. If you start going to bed earlier and you make a conscious decision about that, you start waking up earlier, then you're going to start your day better. If you start eating a few things that are better for your diet, you're going to have better health. You don't have to do everything all at once and be perfect. If
Mhm.
you've never had a schedule before you control, you don't have to get the whole day right, but maybe start time blocking 3 times a day. Start planning a stop time at least every day. So I think there's this idea that we have to like conquer 600 things. We just have to start and start better than we did the day before.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Tammy. You were amazing. I hope maybe have another episode with you because you have a lot to teach still. And thank you so much. After we end, how can our audience reach you?
Yeah, all my social media. Probably best you can slide into my DMs on Instagram, on Facebook, but those are the best ways to reach me. Of course, my number is very Googleable, but definitely on Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you for another episode.